Full Moon Features releases another Blu-ray in their new remastered series of taking discs or films that had already been out on disc and really going back to the source elements and remastering them so that they look honestly better than they really ever have before. Considering most Full Moon productions never really got theatrical releases, we all first came to know these films via cable and videotape, and then later maybe DVD or Laserdisc, and then DVD, maybe Blu-ray. So this is another in that series. This is SHADOWZONE Remastered. This is 1990 film directed by J.S. Cardone and starring Louise Fletcher, yes, from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, James Hong, yes, from innumerable things, Sean Weatherly, yes, from a lot of 80s stuff, Lou Leonard, yes, from a lot of 80s stuff, and Miguel A. Nunez Jr., yes, from that Friday the 13th movie where he is in the outhouse and so forth. So this is a film that my friends and I rented when we were in high school. We used to go get together on Friday night. This is the video store era. This would have been 1990, 91 maybe. And we would rent things and always looking for something goofy as a group to watch and have fun with. And SHADOWZONE was one of them. I remember the opening of SHADOWZONE. I remember this helicopter coming down in this area. And then I don't remember much beyond that. I remember my friend making fun for years of the Full Moon ad that was at the beginning of this tape that let you could order SHADOWZONE lab coats, and we always joked about, ooh, SHADOWZONE lab coats. I don't remember us ever really getting to the end of this. I don't know if we got bored with it, or my memory is that it was one of those things where we put the tape in and it was all those horizontal static lines coming down because somebody with a dirty-headed VCR had just chewed up the tape before that, and it really kind of wasn't watchable, so we wound up returning it. So this is one of those things where it's one of those titles that the cover I've remembered from video stores. I always saw it on box on the video store shelf, and it takes decades for me to finally find out what's inside that box. And here we go. So the story here is about a secret government science experiment in an underground lab where James Hong and Louise Fletcher are doing these sleep experiments where they disconnect the cerebral cortex of people, which ultimately leads to a monster stalking the facility. And there's a government agent, hotshot He-Man government agent, who's coming to check up on things, who happens to be there when everything goes awry. So it's kind of a monster stalking people kind of movie, ultimately. I thought it was kind of boring myself. So that might be why I don't remember this film from when I was in high school, is that it may have just been too talky and kind of dull, and we may not even made it to the point where there was a monster in the film. Louise Fletcher is good. She's Louise Fletcher. James Hong always gives his best in the film. The creature effects are not half bad. The visual effects are not half bad. It's just kind of dull. I thought Nunez was easily the best part of the film. He gave over the Oscar winner, the guy from Friday the 13th, Part 6 or whatever it was, I think was the most actively animated person in the film, and looks great. It looks really good. It's a really good transfer, and it also has a monkey in it. Thank God I put that in my notes. If you're like me, a monkey can make the difference in a film. A monkey can make the difference between wanting to watch a film or not. A monkey might make the difference between whether you enjoy a film or not. So if anybody is like me, big Monkeys fan, just so you know, there is a monkey in the film. So yeah, it looks good. The compositions look good in widescreen. This was, I don't know, at least initially this wasn't a widescreen release. And that's the thing with a lot of these too, is they were shot probably so that they could be projected theatrically at 185 or whatever overseas or in theaters maybe, but all of us knew these as full screen 4:3 films. So getting these remastered versions where the compositions actually look better, there's not all this bizarre headroom and stuff like that, is a nice upgrade. So if you're a fan of SHADOWZONE, this is the one to get. If you're a fan of Full Moon, this is the one to get. If you like early 90s low budget horror sci-fi, this is there for you. The extras are trailer, 1.5 minute trailer, original trailer. The Full Moon trailers for mostly new releases: Bad CGI Gator, Bring Her to Me, Amy, Dr. Death, Don't Let Her In, and Subspecies 5. They're still making Subspecies movies. Subspecies 5 Blood Rise. So if you want to see what this sucker looks like, we've got SHADOWZONE Remastered. There's the cover. Pretty cool cover. It's their covers were good in those days. And the back and the inside should be nothing to write home about. Full Moon was interesting. You know, when these were new movies, I didn't think much of Full Moon. I saw a couple, and I think Seed People was the one that is also a remastered version that's out there that I've already reviewed. Seed People might have been the one back then that I watched and thought was a lot of fun. Maybe the first Puppet Master or two were fun, but at the time I always just felt like they were cheap junk. Now I can look back at them and really respect them for being the then modern day equivalent of 1950s monster movies. And probably the way I feel about 50s monster movies from the point where I first saw them as a kid, and where my brain still is locked when those movies were 20, 30 years old, is probably how people who are younger than me feel about Full Moon. You know, films that are old and cheesy and you can laugh at them for that. They certainly were, I wouldn't say they were always well made, but they were competently made with decent casts, and everybody was trying on a Full Moon set, more so than I can say about some films that followed decades later. So, available on Blu-ray from Full Moon Features is SHADOWZONE Remastered.